Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Developing a Data Quality Process. I hope everyone's having a great day. Everyone's last session, I assume. We have a fair bit to cover today, so I want to kind of jump right into it. I hope today's going to be a mixture of best practices. We're going to try to keep it not too salesy for product demos or things, but I do want to give you guys a good start into being able to go home and develop your own data quality process. My name is Mark Esdale. I'm Vice President of Business Development for CRM Fusion Incorporated. I'm happy to be here presenting at my 14th Dreamforce this year. Thank you. Our company, CRM Fusion, has been developing data quality solutions for Salesforce customers since 2004. It's our entire company focus. It's all we do. Since that time, we've worked with more than 8,000 different Salesforce firms around the world. I literally spend most of my day working with some of the largest Salesforce accounts, working on teaching them how to develop a data quality process, keep their data clean what they got, and make sure it stays that way. If you're looking to reach out to us, we're downstairs in the expo here, as well as in the other Moscone Center. Today's agenda, it's going to go down like this. We're going to talk about why data quality is important. We're going to talk about how we can assess the quality of our CRM data. Then we're going to talk about stopping bad data before it even gets into our Salesforce system. And for that bad data that does get in, we're going to talk about how to standardize and cleanse it once it gets in there. We're going to talk about how to improve our data and protect the data and how to keep it clean automatically. And I hope to send you home with some tips and tricks on how you can get started in this right away. Hopefully at the end, after a fair bit of content, we'll have some time for some Q&A. Let's start with this. What's bad data? Okay, so everyone in the room who has no bad data in their Salesforce system, please stand. What is bad data? I mean, bad data comes in many shapes and formats. It's data that's non-standardized. It doesn't look the way we want it to look. It's wrongly formatted. Is California in your database as CA? Is it in as California? Is it in as CAL, CALF? How do you put it in there? It's data that is duplicated. Probably the number one or one of the biggest concerns in any kind of CRM system is the amount of duplicate data that's in it. Data can go old, it can be stale. Data can be wrong or incomplete. Data can be unused and redundant. And data can even be owned outside of the security permissions. Ever seen that? When you go into a CRM system and you find there's a whole bunch of data that nobody has permissions to see. That's always an interesting one. Why is it important? Why is the whole data quality thing so important? I mean, it's easy, right? Poor data, what's it turn into? It turns into inaccurate reporting. Reports that are on paper but nobody really trusts. Bad dashboards, they may be pretty, but if they don't actually tell the truth, what good really are they? It results in time that's wasted. Every single person that works with that data, looks at that data, reports on that data, is really just kind of wasting their time to a certain percentage if that data is not dead on right. Eventually, if you put enough bad data into any CRM system, your users will give up. They'll just quit. They'll just say, forget it. I'm not going to play this game. Why enter my good information into your bad system? It results in customization and custom code that should work, but it doesn't. And if you have custom code that calls for all the state or calls for all the accounts in California, and you only get 3/4 of them because a lot of the stuff doesn't say California, what good are you doing? And it really comes down to money. It comes down to losing money. Bad information every time. Here's a good case example of that from one of our customers from a couple years ago. This is an interesting customer. They work with auto dealerships around North America, and they send out this really expensive fulfillment package. It's about $20. I mean, it's a big fancy color thing and costs them a fortune. They got to send out 4,000 of them. It's going to cost them $80,000 to do so. They send out to 500 bad addresses. They don't even get delivered. Cost them $10,000. Of those 4,000 records, 25% were duplicates, 1,000 dupes, costing them another $20,000. 100 pieces just go to the wrong person. The person just doesn't exist at that organization anymore and get thrown in the garbage, costing him $2,000. On a single $80,000 campaign, $32,000 down the toilet. I mean, it's not unusual. Don't think that this is out of the ballpark. I mean, we regularly see 25, 30, 35% and more that just are not being used, and it's simply because of the quality of the data that sits beneath that marketing program. So, is your data like this? How do you know? How do you really go in and go to a CRM system and figure out what the quality is like? There's a couple things we can do. But before you even start looking at it, it's hard to go somewhere unless you know what your destination's going to be. So it's important that we make the definition of what is ideal. What do we really want? And as system administrators, if we don't know, I guarantee your users don't know. So, pick any record or pick any object in Salesforce, your accounts, your contacts, your leads. What data is nice to have on those records? What data is important to have on those records? And what of that data is just got to be there? It's mission critical data that we have no choice. And if we don't, as system administrators don't document this, we're never going to be able to communicate it. And how can we try to get this out to our forces to say, hey, we need good data quality if we can't tell them what good data quality is? Once we get it documented properly, now we have a benchmark. We have a benchmark to measure all future data and all future data quality processes to get measured against that ideal definition. We have a target, is basically what we have. So what tools do you have to assess that implementation? There's a bunch of them. Salesforce reports and dashboards. Design specific reports that measure your data quality versus that ideal. Exception reports. I don't want to run a report for the records in California. I want to run a report for the ones that look like they're in California. If my ideal definition is CA, I want to run the report for all the California accounts that say California. I want to run the report that says CAL and CALF to get the ones that aren't meeting my ideal standard. How about reports for blank data? I want a report that of all the accounts that don't have a state. For small data, for known bad data. I'm going to want to run reports for deduplication. We're looking for duplicates in the database. I mean, being unique, of course, is absolutely part of the ideal. As administrators, I'm sure we have our own concept of what ideal is, but the question is, do your users agree with you? Have you surveyed your users and your actual data consumers to make sure you guys are all on the same page about what this, quote, definition of ideal is? There's lots of tools out there to measure field usage. How many fields are on your records are 100% used? How many are 75% used? How many fields do you have on your page layouts that are 10% used or 2% used? I've gone into some accounts and seen account records with 900 fields. I'm not kidding. Who is going to fill out an account record with what'd you do today? Oh, I filled out an account record. It's really what it comes down to. And there's lots of tools to help you measure that. But again, this all summarizes to we have to profile, analyze the existing data all against our definition of what this ideal is. Okay, let's do a best practice here. Anybody in the room score their data? Anybody? Yeah? I see a couple hands. Here's a cute little formula, just as an example of one we can pick off and you could all go home tomorrow and implement. A little formula that is made to measure the completeness of a record's fields. How many fields are populated? If the email's filled out, it gets 1 point. If the phone's filled out, it gets another. Company, title, and industry. A perfect record is a 5 out of 5. A lousy record's a 1 out of 5. So that's all fine and dandy. Now as an administrator, I guess I could run a report. But why don't I go further? Let's jump over to Salesforce. Here's a record for a Mr. M. Mouse. Mr. M mouse, I took that same formula, did a little bit of graphic magic with it, and I can see right there in the upper right-hand corner that Mr. M mouse is a 3 out of 5 record. And of course, if I go up and now go in and fill out a phone number, and maybe I give him a title, whoops, and save this record back in, those populated fields turn Mr. M mouse into a 5 out of 5 in the record category. And now if I go into an actual list view, it's pretty easy to scan down that third column now for a user or whoever's doing it to figure out which are the good records and which are the bad records. Give me something to do there. Find the records with not many stars and go in and fix them. So it's an easy little formula, and it should be, I think, in most people should be able to get that in. It took me, I did it the other day in this database, in this demo database. It literally took me 5 minutes, not a minute longer. Okay. So we kind of know how to measure bad data now. Let's go in there now and start talking about trying to keep it out. Good practice always says, we can clean databases and we can protect databases. We generally want to try to start with protecting databases. So let's start talking about stopping bad data at the source. If you really think about it, Salesforce has primarily 6 different ways to get data into the system. We have end user entry by the end users via the Salesforce graphical user interface, the browser version of Salesforce. We have our user community that's entering records all the time. We have end users entering from mobile clients. We have people doing mass data imports. We have integrated or custom systems that are talking to Salesforce and putting records in. We have web pages out there feeding data directly into Salesforce. And we also have synchronization technologies. So let's talk about these. So those are your primary 6 ways. So I want to review these 6 ways 2 different times. First stage is step 1, things we can do to mitigate this problem. By mitigate, I mean just try to avoid it. Things we can do easily, things we can do cheaply, maybe even for free. Best practices that we can do to try to keep that data out of there. After that, we're going to talk about control strategies. Things us system admins can do literally to drop the hammer and stop these things from happening all before they get to the database. Let's talk about mitigation. How do we mitigate the end user from having the ability to enter bad data? Well, we do it with good database design. Designing good data access rules. Who's allowed to add data? Who's allowed to edit data? In your organization, is everyone allowed to create an account? I have a lot of my clients that not everyone's allowed to create an account. If you're in a controlled little industry, you're in financial services or you're in healthcare, and the pool is pretty small, they have an approval process to go ahead to create an account. Not everyone's allowed to go in and create an account. As system admins and database designers, we can make we can have some fields being mandatory. We're going to try to use as many pick lists as we can. Don't let people type things all free-form. If we can put it on a pick list, put it on a pick list. Field validation and validation rules. But most importantly, I think, is we have to train this user base. We have to train this user base not only about the importance of data quality, but we have to train them about our definition of ideal and why we want it that way and how it's going to affect them. It's amazing how many organizations we see they don't even enter this conversation in with their user base. The mobile clients are a lot harder, I'll be the first to admit. A lot of mobile clients aren't very customizable. You can't extend your definition of ideal to the mobile client. So we do what we can, but because it's a difficult environment, we may have to worry about cleaning some of the data from the mobile clients later. This is a big one, mass data imports. Do not let everyone mass import data into your Salesforce system, please. Anybody who has the ability to mass import data has this big giant weapon in their hand to mess your database up so fast it'll make your head spin. People that import mass data have to be data quality trained. And they have to, they're data quality trained to know that they're only allowed or only supposed to import data that fits the ideal data model. Custom systems. This is an easy one. But this is more about communicating to your own IT or your own architecture team. If we've already got the ideal standard defined, there's no reason we shouldn't be able to take that exact ideal standard and implement it in the custom system, so there's no other way to do it. And if there is data upstream coming from another system, coming down from an ERP system or whatever it is, we're going to want to extend our Salesforce ideal, hopefully upstream as well. Web to lead, another big one that causes lots of dupes. This is usually pretty easy, especially if your web to lead solution is Salesforce native. Your definition you define in Salesforce will follow your form up onto your website. But this is also the time where it's a huge source that where a ton of these bad data can come from. And finally is these syncing technologies, your Outlook synchronizers and your other email synchronizers and those kind of things. They kind of follow like the mobile client. You really don't have a lot of control. So you've got to be kind of ready to deal with those, and it's probably in a post-cleanup side. So that's my list of mitigating. Now let's get mean and start talking about controlling. When talking about controlling input sources from the end user, this really comes down to mandatory real-time deduplication technologies. For example, my company makes a product called Dupe Blocker. We can stop users from entering dupes, and I'll show you that one in a little bit. We can literally make it impossible for the user to enter a record that matches another record on custom criteria. Not allowed to, throw an error message, ain't gonna happen. End user entry also works with real-time deduping technologies. So regardless of what they're doing on their iPhone, we can take their entry and maybe automatically merge it to the existing record that was already there, or throw open a blocking error message. Mass data imports. The standard tools that were given on the platform just aren't good enough for doing mass data imports. What we really need is a mass data import tool that's capable not only of importing the data into Salesforce, but it's capable of deduping it at the same time. Do not allow this data into the system until it's guaranteed to be a unique piece of data. If it's not unique, update the existing record with the new data. Only when it's unique is it allowed to be inserted. We make a product called People Import that does exactly this. And the system administrator decides exactly how that works. Custom systems can also use real-time dedupers where they're going to code against custom APIs so that we stop those custom systems from being able to do it. Web to lead, same thing. Web to lead, you can use a real-time dedupe. If you go to my website tomorrow and fill out a give me a call type of form, it's going to create a Salesforce lead. If you go there every day next week and do the same form, all you're doing is updating that same lead over and over and over again. You're not going to create 7 leads in my system. You're going to create 1 lead with 7 different touch points, 7 different notes, 7 different collections of data. And finally, these synchronization technologies. This is the real tough one. This one's going to have to be done in the back end. Those systems usually feed data into Salesforce in very large batches. Impossible to real-time dedupe, hard to control standards. We'll have to worry about it in the background. Let's go take a look at some real-time deduping. I'm going to call up back into Salesforce here. Let's go back to our Mickey Mouse record. We have our Mickey Mouse record here. I'm going to hit the clone button to save myself the time of retyping this record. But what I'm really doing is simulating the end user who probably should have searched for Mr. Mouse before he decides to go in and type Mr. Mouse's record new. Because we're running real-time deduping technologies, when I hit save, system comes back with an immediate error. I'm sorry, Mr. User, that is not going to happen. You're not going to be able to enter that record. And the real-time deduper has things called matching algorithms in it too. I can't make minor little changes. Mickey Mouse wouldn't import here either. It's too close to Mickey Mouse. Walt Disney Incorporated wouldn't import either. It's too close to the existing record. So here we'll push the user to the record they're supposed to find. It wouldn't be until I made a radical change to this record. I'm going to make it, I'll change its address to 123 Main Street. 123 Main Street. And we'll save this record into the database now, and I would expect that Salesforce will allow this record to come into the system. But notice a couple of things. Right here in the user interface, it's already showing a potential duplicate record that the real-time deduper has found. And down here in the interface, we can actually see details about that record. There's a warning number, 8807, that warns us about the duplicate that was detected, and it warns us about the fact there's 2 Mickey Mouse records now into the system, and we're going to give that user the corresponding merge opportunity to get rid of that mistake that they just made. The joy of real-time deduping. Oh, and there it is. This is a bit slow today. We also get a pop-up box right in front of the user's face saying, hey, Mr. User, we know you created a dupe. Here's your task to do something about it right now. Okay, so we've done some things, right? We got our input sources kind of under control. We're using best practices and good database design to mitigate what we can. We've installed control technologies on a real-time deduping for the individual transactions, and we've installed technologies to make sure that when we do mass imports that we're not going to be creating dupes by the thousands. So we've got a pretty good handle of this. Let's talk about standardizing and cleansing existing data. Some stuff will slip through that net, I guarantee it. And you're also probably sitting in the situation right now where there's some of this bad data already in the database. What can we do about it? What we can do about it is we can put another layer of software in here, data quality tools that are going to access the data at the data center via the APIs. And these tools can do a whole bunch of things. We can have tools that are running ETL jobs, extract, transform, and load. It allows us to pull data out, fix it, and push it back into the database. I'm sure a bunch of people use the data loader today for that. Anybody? Of course, right? ETL jobs. Backup and maintenance jobs. Jobs to control who owns what objects in the database. Jobs to run automatic data quality reports and such. We can run standardization processes. We're going to run jobs that look for bad data and automatically transform it. Find everything that looks like this and change it to this. Find all the accounts, leads, and contacts that are coming from a state that says California and change that billing state to CA. Hit the button and change 500,000 records. Of course, we're going to run external dedupe processes. We're going to scan the existing database on custom jobs, looking for our new definition of duplicates, find those duplicates, and merge them together to single records without losing any data. And we can run special processes for the lead object. We have to make sure leads are unique to leads, but we also have to make sure that leads are unique to contacts. We have to make sure leads are unique to accounts. Because leads are often people that should be contacts inside of existing accounts, or they should be just updates on existing contact records. Whoops. Let's go in and take a look at doing some of this stuff here. This is our big Salesforce.com administrators toolkit called Demand Tools. Any Demand Tools users in the room? Thank you. Demand Tools, a suite of 10 different data quality modules that admins use, built on a big 64-bit client capable of dealing with millions of records at a time. And in here, we get the ability to develop data quality jobs and execute them directly against the Salesforce database. Let me give you an example. Let's go into the deduper. Here we have a fully flexible 5-way deduper capable of deduping any object in Salesforce, using any field, using 100% custom criteria, and all of our companies matching algorithms to match up data that doesn't normally match. Here in this job I've already got kind of set up. We're going to dedupe all of the data in this instance from a billing state that looks like California, starts with new or starts with W. I've defined that a duplicate is a record that has the same name, street, city, and phone. All 4 things have to match in order for this to be seen as a duplicate. The magic is they don't have to exactly match. Something like the account name. We're going to use a matching algorithm called cleaned account name matching. We're going to take a long, complex address, or a long, complex account name, the Hewlett-Packard Corporation of America. We're going to water it down to its lowest common denominator by removing business prefixes and business suffixes. The Hewlett-Packard Corporation of America waters down to Hewlett-Packard. Therefore, now Hewlett-Packard Inc. dupes with Hewlett-Packard Limited, the Hewlett-Packard Company, the company Hewlett-Packard, and everything else that looks like Hewlett-Packard. We're then going to go even deeper. We're going to take Hewlett-Packard and put it through a fuzzy phonetics engine. We'll take Hewlett-Packard, we'll drop the vowels and analyze the sound of the pronunciated consonants that remain. Hewlett-Packard will dupe with Howlett-Pickard, and therefore now the Howlett-Pickard Corporation dupes to Hewlett-Packard Limited. We're even going to apply a transpositional engine so the word order doesn't matter. Hewlett-Packard dupes with Packard-Hewlett, the Packard-Hewlett Company dupes with Hewlett-Packard Limited. But because the fuzzy engine's on, Pickett-Howlett also dupes to Hewlett-Packard as well now. And the Pickett-Howlett Company dupes to Hewlett-Packard Limited. I've never done that before. We're also going to apply something called the alpha cleaner. The alpha cleaner will make sure the deduper doesn't get or doesn't pay any attention to dots, dashes, slashes, number signs, underscores, whatever else somebody decided to put in that account name. The billing street we're going to match using the core part of the address. Nothing but the street number and the street name. We'll ignore everything else. The billing city is going to be matched exactly using the fuzzy engine for spelling mistakes. And the phone number will match what we call base 7, the core 7 digits of the phone number, ignoring the ones and the area codes and the extension numbers that could be surrounding it. With that, we're ready to go. We asked the Salesforce data center to find us records. We find just over 14,000 records that met that state criteria. And as fast as that, in the lower left-hand corner, we've discovered 125 accounts that under that rule set is only 44 real accounts. And they're displayed up into the interface, put into what we call their duplicate sets. You can see, in the account name Aquathin Incorporated, all the different variations. You can see the street variations and the phone number variations. Once they're here, I have the ability to merge these records about 5 different ways. I could merge them manually one at a time, or I could apply a rules engine to do mass merging to these records, where I would literally allow the computer to choose the most appropriate record to keep as master. We'll merge the other records into the master and crunch these down to single records. The important thing is underneath those records, the sub-objects in the database hierarchy will all be protected. When I merge all those Aquathin records together, all the contacts, opportunities, notes, events, tasks, and the rest of it will all be moved to the final standing record. I know I won't lose any of that data. But the real magic in creating an automated data process is to save this now as a job. I would save this. This is one of the ways I dedupe my accounts table. I'm probably going to need a couple of ways, but I'm going to save this as a job because these jobs can be run automatically. I can schedule this job. We'll see in a bit. I could schedule this job to run every night. So that's a deduping side. We got time for one more here. Let's skip over to this other module called Mass Impact. Mass Impact is where we're going to worry about our standardization issue. Find everything in the database that looks like this and change it to this. So here I'm saying, I want to grab a bunch of data from the database, and I want my billing countries to be transformed into their long format. I want to run what we call a North American phone number fix on my phone numbers, so my phone number formatting all turns out to be the same. I want to convert all my account names into uppercase on these leads. And I want to even go through it, or on my account, and I even want to go through and count the number of cases that are on each one and use it to populate a custom field. Again, I hit the go button. The data center shows us 1,000 records. The original field value is displayed in white, the changing field values in color. And if I was to hit the go button at this point, 1,000 records would suddenly change to their new colored values based upon how I want. And again, I would save this as a job. If my state definition is CA for California, there is no reason I shouldn't run a job every night looking for the exceptions to that ideal definition and have the system fix it itself. So there's a little flavor of using our product demand tools as a kind of a post-process side. The next step of magic in this is to build up this repertory of jobs in those 4 categories and then to automate them so they happen on a regular and consistent basis. Is it hourly? Is it daily? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? What I'm trying to get to is this world of the self-cleaning database. And I do that with my Job Builder product. Job Builder is the product we use to take a whole bunch of those individual data quality jobs, package them up as a single job. So at the top, you can see I'm running a bunch of dedupe jobs and standardization jobs and backup jobs and counting jobs, reporting jobs at the bottom. Along the right-hand side, you can see how I can control where those jobs are happening. What instance are they happening? Are they happening in production? Are they happening in sandboxes? Where are those happening? And if I want to schedule this entire package of jobs, I can simply hit Edit or Create Schedule. Choose the time frame. I'm going to run this every week, starting on this Friday, and I'm going to run it at 1 in the morning or so, and I'm going to just say Create Schedule. My little green light comes on, and this is now a scheduled process. Every Friday night at 1 o'clock, the system's going to start at the top, run that top job, and go job after job after job. This changes my life as a Salesforce.com administrator. All I have to do now is look for bad data. When I find bad data, I don't fix the data. I fix the job. How did this slip through my net? How did it slip through first of all, my controls on the source? And then how did it slip through the automated cleansing process that's also happening? I figure out how it slipped through. Maybe I just need a new job in here. Maybe I need just a tweak of one of these jobs to catch this newfound exception. The more and more you work on this, the better and better it gets. And really what it does for your organization is it takes your data quality from here and puts it to here, but it never lets you fall back down. You're always on a trajectory that's heading to the upper right because it's impossible to fall back down as long as this list of automated jobs is constantly happening. And you know, it even kind of changes the way you look at input data. You know, tomorrow some guy from sales comes up to you and goes, hey, can I import these 500 records? And you look at his data and you go, ooh, God, that's nasty data. You know, I mean, I know most of that's dupes and it's all formatted wrong. And it's like, oh, but I'm busy. Yeah, go ahead and import it. You know how I can say that? Because I know this stuff's going to happen tonight. So, you know, whatever he typed as his state, it doesn't matter. Tomorrow it's going to say CA because this job's going to fix that. And it really is going to save me a whole bunch of time as an administrator. So really, let's just do a Sitrep here. We have our input controls and our database cleansing working, all monitoring and trying to fix around this definition of this ideal record we talked about earlier. Our data stewards are looking for bad data. They're figuring out how it evaded the system, and they're designing and tweaking those existing jobs simply to fill the hole. What can you do when you go home? Some easy things you can do, I think. There's a variety of data quality dashboard tools available on the App Exchange for free. There's some really good ones. I suggest you load them, put them into your org, let them run, and see what you get. Take the time to find your ideal records. Document them. Survey your users and share the ideal record design with them. Take my little formula. Go and score your records. Show your users at least the quality of the records that they're importing, the records that they're creating in the system. Show them the quality of the records. Put it right up in their face so they can see it. Review the available data quality tools. There's a variety of data quality tools, including my companies, that are available on the App Exchange. Figure out which ones are best for your organization. But really, it really comes down to creating a data quality project plan. Grab some of the stuff you learned today, take it home, start implementing it. Even baby steps are going to make a huge difference for you, and you'll never regret it. Good data inside of Salesforce makes everything else work easier. With that, I'll say thank you, And I'll start taking questions and answers if there are any with just under 5 minutes left here. Any questions? Thank you.
I'm a customer of yours.
Thank you.
I would like to know when we're going to have the tool in iOS and in the cloud.
We've decided that the best platform for our product is Microsoft.NET. It gives us our multilingual capabilities, and it gives us scalability. Demand Tools is capable of scaling millions of records because we have system resources of that local computer. I ran a dedupe for a Brazilian customer the other day. I was using 18 gigabytes of addressable memory space to run their dedupe job. I won't not be getting that type of data out of the cloud probably for 10 years from now, before I'm available, before I have that kind of power in the cloud version. What a lot of our customers are doing, though, is they're using virtual machines, whether it's Parallels or VMware on a Mac. I use a Mac garbage can with 128 gigs of RAM, and I use Parallels on that. Or you use something new like Amazon Workspaces. Anybody heard of this yet? Amazon Workspaces. Amazon will rent you a Windows 10 computer in the cloud that runs inside of their data center, fully loaded, for $50 a month. It's always on. They do security, they do patches, they do antivirus, they do everything. And just let it sit there. They give you a little iOS client, they give you an iPhone client, they give you a Kindle client, they give you a Windows client, all to access that data. And I think it's really the way of the future. You're welcome. Good.
2 questions. First one, is there any functionality to enrich data? For example, I have zip code and I want to populate state.
Yeah, well, you can basically, all you need for that is we have a tool that we didn't see in there called Find and Report IDs, that if you just download the standard table off the government website, you can do that comparison right there. You don't even need to go and buy external data or anything.
And second question, do you work with custom objects and cases,
yes.
For example?
Yeah, throughout all of our packages, custom objects, custom fields, no problems.
On your dedupe product, do you have the ability to back out changes if you happen to really screw it up?
Yeah, good question. In most of our modules, we have 100% restore capability. In our dedupe product, we're actually, in most cases, using the Salesforce dedupe, the Salesforce API dedupe. In Salesforce at the data center, connected to the big Oracle cluster that Salesforce is, there's specific computers that are there to merge records. And they merge the 2 records together. There is no natural undo that process, but no data is truly destroyed either. It's simply a reorganization of data with the losing records being put into the recycle bin. You can pull them out of the recycle bin and then just put the information back to where they came from.
Hi, a few questions. One is, you said that sometimes you can pop up a window for the user to see that there's a potential dupe. A lot of times people create those duplicates because they don't have visibility to the entity that they're creating again. Is this still going to allow them to merge even if the lead is not, or whatever entity it is that they're creating a dupe to?
I get it. It's a great question. First of all, when you design those scenarios, we call them, you get your option on whether that user is only deduping against their visible data, or they are what we call looking over the fence. It's actually possible in that product to say, I'm sorry, Mr. User, you're not allowed to create that record because a duplicate exists that I'm not allowed to show you. That's kind of always a fun one. But no, Salesforce security always wins. So if they can't see it, we can't merge to it. But we can still stop them from entering it. We just can't show it to them.
Got it. And how do your customers deal with, in cases that there are leads or any other entity to merge and there is conflicting information, and a lot of times you just need to walk through it and decide what's more important, and that can't be done automatically, obviously. So how do most of your customers do that?
That's a good question. I mean, there's a couple of ways of doing it. I mean, when we're merging records, we can have rules that decide which record wins. We can also have rules inside of that. You know, the oldest record always wins, but the newest email address wins, and the most recently modified phone number wins. But if that's still not good enough, inside of the deduper, there's a mechanism to send it to basically stop right at that big screen with all the dupes on it, and report that out. And you can report it out to Excel, distribute that Excel file to salespeople, sales managers, whatever, have them go in and say, this is the right data, this is the right data, this is the right data, and then import that back in and use their feedback.
Got it. And as a follow-up to that, is it possible to leave a blank field, to create a special field, just so that if you see a duplicate in the merging process, just put this record's information into this field, like push it into a from merged record or something like that, so that you don't lose it and you can do or?
Yeah, there's some slight variations of that. I mean, there's even things like, if you have 2 records and they each have an email and you want to keep them both, you can move one to email 2 and that kind of thing. There's not really a way to shove a record into a field per se, but there's a bunch of little, some people will even decide to leave the losing record in the database. They'll merge the sub-objects, but they'll leave the losing record in the database and they'll mark it as a merged record. This is now IBM Corporation, ***, this is a merged record, ***, so that people no longer use it, but that data is still there, and maybe they'll leave it there for 90 days in case anybody needs it, then they'll kill it. So there's always a way to work in there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
2 quick questions. One is dupe blockers, duplicate detection available through the API? Can you programmatically?
Oh, yeah, it is, as long as the records are coming in individually. If we're feeding records through the API in batch mode, the Salesforce governors don't give us enough horsepower. Dupe Blocker can take 1 record and compare it against millions of existing records in the database, but the API allows us to import 200 record batches. I just don't have the power. The governors say, no way, we're not going to allow you to do 200 scans against millions of records. Basically what would happen is the save button would time out. It could take a minute, and you'd hit save, and it would just sit there and go like that. You can apparently bring it down to smaller numbers, but you start playing with fire and into non-warranted zones.
Okay. Second question is, can you compare different fields together in the dupe detection, like work phone match, home phone match, cell phone, that kind of thing?
There's some, not natively, not simply, there is a bunch of workarounds for it. Okay. Sometimes we'll spit a bunch of data out and then compare the external data against the incoming data when we want to do that. It's not a general process we do all the time, so we can kind of fudge around it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
If you're not currently a customer, what does it take to do the implementation? How quick can you get to actually use the tool?
That's a great question too. I mean, we've been doing it for 12 years or 14 years. Customers, when they purchase a product like Demand Tools, they purchase the tool. One of our customer success managers gives you a dedicated 2-hour training session that trains you on the core modules and is really enough to kind of push you out the dock. And once you've learned the core modules, most people grasp on to the other ones really quickly. But we also have a plethora of self-help. We're always running free training. It's a subscription product, so training's free. You can take as much as you want. We deliver, 20, 30 courses a month out there in the webinar world for our customers.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, folks, thank you very much. Have a great day.